All right, Thursday Night Football. Love this one. Detroit Lions at the Green Bay Packers. We get the Lions favored by 1.5 going into Green Bay. A lot of injuries on both sides of the ball here. We'll get into those in a minute, but this is a fun one. Last time we saw them play, that was in Green Bay, right? The last game of the year last year that Detroit won when Green Bay had the playoffs. Yeah, it was in Green Bay. Playoffs were on the line for the Packers, and the Lions made a statement.
Yeah.
Can they do that again?
They did. No, this is a fun game. A lot of injuries, particularly from Green Bay. They're getting some players back, but they're also missing some players as well, particularly on the offensive line.
Christian Watson is supposed to be back.
Right.
The second-year wide receiver, Aaron Jones, is
and this would be
expected to play.
Watson's season debut. He hasn't played yet.
The debut for Watson. The injuries include Zach Tom, who's questionable. He's questionable. He's been starting at right tackle. Elton Jenkins is out, guard. David Bakhtiari is out. Devondre Campbell, the linebacker, is out. Jair Alexander, questionable. Doesn't look like he's going to play. A couple others in there as well.
So you're missing 3/5 of the best offensive line, or one of the best offensive lines in the NFL, theoretically, potentially. At least 2/5, maybe 3/5. That's not great.
Detroit's pass rush came to life last week against the Falcons. It's been very much the Aiden Hutchinson show, and he got a little bit of help last week. It did help having Desmond Ridder there, but they played much better up front. I think that's, I don't want to say the formula. The formula is not just be better up front, but when Detroit does that, obviously it makes their defense much better when they're getting help from Alim McNeil and not just Aiden Hutchinson winning and no one else is creating havoc on the quarterback.
Yeah, they really need either a secondary pass rushing threat to emerge consistently opposite or alongside Aiden Hutchinson, or they need to really work at, moving around Aiden Hutchinson to the point where you can't, take him away as easily. Like, they're doing a reasonable job of that, I think, of moving him around, lining him up inside sometimes, but if he's the one guy, if he's your only source of pass rush, you're going to need to do it as much as anybody in the NFL if you don't have that secondary threat. He's currently tied for the league lead in total pressures with 19 through 3 games. Had a 92 pass rushing grade last week. He looks fantastic. Alim McNeil, I think, is a good player. So that's one useful body to have alongside him. I don't know if he's going to be a consistent force as a pass rusher, even at his best. So you really need one of those other guys to just emerge. And to be honest, if Green Bay's without both starting tackles, that's a good time to do it.
That's going to be the interesting one because we've had a lot of back and forth with Jordan Love analysis and grades and all that. I think that he definitely had some statistical help early in the year, but in through 3 quarters against the Saints, kind of all over the place. But man, he made some big throws down the stretch, led the 17-point comeback. They beat the Saints 18-17 just 4 days ago. And, they're at home, too. We always know the home team on the short week will help a little bit, but we'll see if that can spark Jordan Love. I think for him, it's putting together a full game consistently because I think Matt LaFleur has been outstanding in the red zone, scheming it up. Those young receivers have been really good with Luke Musgrave, Jaden Reed, and second-year Romeo Doubs. Getting Watson back, I think the key with Watson here, keep an eye on when he's in those tight alignments that we've love. When he is there, that's scary. Because you can run that deep crosser, you can run, a little post corner type deal. You have to account for Christian Watson's speed. And the Packers do lean into that and say, hey, we know you have to account for this. We're going to scheme up a few plays for him. And sometimes that does draw the defense and open things up. So I don't know how limited Christian Watson would be, but even if it's just, 20 or 25 routes that he can run, it does open things up because his speed, we saw last year, it needs to be accounted for.
Yeah, but that's a classic, hamstring dilemma that we've talked about before, right? It's like, what does Christian Watson bring to the table? Blazing straight line speed. What is the one thing that is a problem for a hamstring injury? Full sprints, right? So it's not, this is the weird thing about hamstring injuries. I don't understand this world where you bring a guy back and he's like, well, he's just about ready. We're going to keep him on a pitch count, right? He can only sprint 20 times before his hamstring just snaps like a banjo string, right? Either his hamstring is good and he can sprint, or it's not and he can't. But if he's back, I think it does change things for this offense, which, the Jordan Love discourse has been interesting. Obviously, when it's on Twitter, it's been without nuance as well. I think Jordan Love's been pretty good, right? His grade, I think, for the season is slightly above average, which, is about right. But when you consider he hasn't had Christian Watson yet, when you consider his offensive line has been getting a little bit banged up, even if it's been doing a good job, just the collection. I'm excited for the long-term outlook of this offense, right? Jordan Love has already cleared the first bar, which is, does the thing work with you back there? And it does. Like, he looks reasonably good. He understands most of the time where to go with the ball. I think his accuracy is going to skew towards being a little bit scattershot. You know, he's put the ball in risky situations sometimes this season. He's just missed some throws sometimes this season. I suspect, given his college career and given what we've seen so far, he's going to be on that side of the spectrum, you know, more inaccurate than accurate. But he's capable of making big plays and making good decisions. And this offense is so crazy young that if they benefit with the time together and gel, it could be much better at the end of the season than at the start.
I'm not sure how much it matters, but one interesting note, Jared Goff, number 4 PFF passing grade so far this year, through 3 weeks. You know, the caveat with all of these, small sample sizes, and literally if you take any 3-week sample throughout the season, you'll get weird rankings. But Goff is number 4 right now, but also dating back to last year, week 13, he's had one game grade under 70. One great game grade under 75, actually. So he's been extremely consistent for Jared Goff, right? A guy that, you know, has had some ups and downs. He's actually, I don't know if the stats are as good as last year, but he's playing pretty well this year, maybe even better than the stats would show for Goff so far. So did he just turn a corner for the Lions late last year and it started to match the on-field production? So Goff's been playing pretty well, even though he does also play much better at home overall. So something to keep an eye on.
Goff's looked good. This is as good, I think, as Jared Goff has looked. This game is like nothing but injury news. So we talked about the Packers players, another Green Bay player that could not play in the game, might miss the game, Jair Alexander, their number 1 corner. That's a pretty big thing. However, Tom Palazzolo has come out with a clarification to an earlier tweet that I missed, but David Montgomery will be playing. Taylor Decker will be playing. So that's
they were both supposed to be out.
Yeah, well, not anymore. Correction, he says.
Because they were talking, Penei Sewell was going to move back to left tackle and the whole thing.
And they were going to have to be paying essentially a third-string tackle against Rashawn Gary, which is not great, Bob. So Taylor Decker will be playing, as will David Montgomery, and Emmanuel Mosley will not be playing.
All right. Yeah, Mosley's not playing. So everything was the opposite.
He had to ask backwards.
Okay, so everything was wrong.
Yeah.
Got it. That's good to know. So Detroit's less banged up overall than Green Bay.
Sure.
So Lions by 1.5 on the road here. Short week, Thursday night.
I mean, Detroit.
My heart wants to say Green Bay here.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know.
Detroit.
Against adversity and the whole deal.
Against adversity.
Yeah.
Detroit were the favorites coming into this season for the division. I think through 3 weeks, they've shown that they should still be the favorites, but Green Bay will be their closest challenger. You know, Chicago is a dumpster fire right now, and the Vikings don't have any defense, even with blitzing 1,000,000% of the time. So I think the Packers have pleasantly surprised, but I don't know if they're strong enough with all these injuries to beat Detroit.
I think you're right. I think what's sticking in my head is Detroit. I really hated their Week 2 performance against Seattle. Yeah. I really was disappointed with them overall, especially defensively. The first half against Kansas City defensively, they struggled, but it's like other than that, they've been really good.
Yeah.
So okay, I'll go Detroit here.
Same.
To win